As you might already know, it can be difficult to engage students in math. Students might be engaged in icebreaker activities or brain breaks, but sleepy or bored during content lessons. Engaging students in math is important because it promotes critical thinking and mathematical reasoning. Today, we will discuss different ways in which you can engage students with math, both as a class and individually. One way to engage students is by sparking curiosity at the start of a lesson with a real-world example. For instance, when I did my student teaching last school year, I started off a lesson by asking students if they would rather live in 1952, 2012, or 2022. And I had a list of prices of certain goods, and students discussed that even though prices were lower earlier in 1952 and 2012, the minimum wage was also a lot lower. This sparked students' curiosity and made us question what happens to prices of things and the minimum wage as time goes by, and we eventually ended up talking about inflation, which is an example of an exponential function. Now, I could have started the lesson by just saying, here, we're going to talk about exponential functions, but that's not very engaging. Furthermore, I also pitched a pyramid scheme to my students to introduce exponential functions at the beginning of the unit. We then used this as an excuse to talk about real-world problems and who gets affected by pyramid schemes, which are forms of exponential functions, and how to avoid pyramid schemes. Inspiration can come from anywhere and should come from everywhere. Perhaps from your Instagram feed, a conversation with your parents, or even a suggestion from your students. Another way to engage students is to use technology appropriately. For example, I like to use Desmos in my classroom, and it is a way for teachers to create lessons, and you can program a whole bunch and make it really colorful and engaging, and you can add animations or certain activities for students to do. One of my favorite examples is the Marble Slides game, which teaches students how to shift or translate functions of different types, either linear, quadratic, exponential, etc. To support students individually, you can use the scaffolding strategy. Just like how buildings get built slowly with scaffolds, so does learning. We can break down skills into chunks for students to process one by one. This can be done with units, lessons, or individual problems. Be sure to cheer on your students as they progress through the scaffolding. This will help students see how brilliant they are. An example of scaffolding is how I would teach solving linear equations. I would start by giving students equations that only have us undo addition or subtraction, and then I would incorporate multiplication and division, and then parentheses and distribution and exponents. And that way students can target specific strategies for solving equations and then combine them into more complex equations rather than give them something that has multiple operations at the beginning. Lastly, we should aim to support all students. When possible, add pictures, videos, or text to lessons to capture students' attention. One way to do this is actually to write down or type what students say during meetings. That way, students are not just engaged with their ears, but also with their eyes when they look at the text, and perhaps even with colors if you want to color code the slides or use different colored whiteboard markers. These were just a few ways to engage students in math. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on Slack or via email. Thank you.